I'm David Huboy. Welcome to Going Green TV. This program is sponsored by the San Benito County Chamber of Commerce. And as part of the Green Committee, we promote economic vitality along with environmental sustainability. And on our show today, we have Supervisor Robert Rivas on our first segment. And then our second segment, we will have Kate Woods and Andy Hsia-Coron with the San Benito Rising Group. So welcome to the show, Robert.
Hey, thanks. It's great to be here. It's great to be here.
And just to give you a little background on Robert, he is a county supervisor, and you've been living here pretty much all your life in the San Benito County area in Piscinas, right?
Lifelong resident, right? Right.
And a lot of people know your brother, Ricky, who's done a lot of community service work. And
he has.
Very well known in the community.
Right.
And I think that I want to say is that, you know, before we talk about your passion for the environment,
sure.
And I know that your grandfather worked for Almaden Vineyards.
Almaden Vineyards, right.
You have a master's degree at San Jose State in public administration.
Yes, sir.
Fellow Spartan, that's great.
Fellow Spartan, right.
So we're going to talk about, the general plan
right.
and the challenges of greening up a rural area and
right.
some of the objectives of the general plan.
Sure.
So I'm thinking here, I'm out here in the sticks, there's a barn right there, and I got a vegetable patch, and I hear my dog barking, and I'm going to take him for a walk, and I'm thinking, hey, I'm living a green lifestyle, but actually, it's not necessarily the case, and studies have shown that, lower carbon footprints are in the urban areas, and because primarily, you have to travel to city services. So,
right.
So I know that you have some ideas and you have some opinions of where we need to go with the general plan.
Absolutely.
And maybe you can talk about first about the roads and infrastructure.
Sure. Well, first I have to say that this is it's a pleasure to be on the show. I'm a big fan of Going Green, and I want to thank the both of you for the invitation. And really. I'm here to talk about the general plan, and in my opinion, the general plan is the most important policy work. It's the most important work I'm going to do as a supervisor, and I think it's the most important work we're going to do as a board of supervisors. And I say that because the general plan is a vision. It's a vision for the future of San Benito County, the vision of 10 to 20 to 30 years out. Essentially what we're doing is, since I was elected in 2010, I was sworn in 2011. This general plan process began in 2007, 2008. But throughout this process, why the general plan is so important is because it's a blueprint. It's a blueprint for the future of economic development activity in San Benito County. Mm-hmm. It's the future blueprint for growth in San Benito County, both for residential and the commercial growth. It is a blueprint for the preservation and protection of open space, of agricultural land in our county. But it also is a blueprint to assess our needs in San Benito County, especially our most pressing needs related to our infrastructure, our roads, in my opinion. So I think, and really the general plan, in my opinion, is extremely important. But at the same time, I have great expectations that we can really address some of those needs that we have in San Benito County. Through the general plan update. Mm-hmm. And I expect that when it's all said and done, because we want to get this processed, and we want to get a vote from the Board of Supervisors to get this general plan approved by December of 2014. Mm-hmm. And I hope that when it's all said and done, we're going to have a document that's going to lay out the foundation for responsible future land use planning, mm-hmm. in my opinion. That's my expectation. Right. And I think in working with the general plan, it's a challenge because it's so technical. It's hundreds of pages. There's so many elements. There's so many the policies that are involved. And so the way I can break it down in my opinion, in some simple terms, is as a supervisor, I'm most concerned about four of the general areas that are going to have some impacts in our county moving forward. The first, when I look at the general plan, the general area that I'm concerned about is prosperity. I believe that future economic development must be must be incorporated within the county's planning process in the future. The second, the general area has to be sustainability. I think it's extremely important that we have a general plan that's going to preserve and protect agricultural land, that is going to preserve and protect our environment. And I think it's important so that way future San Benito County leaders, future supervisors, when they go through a general plan update in the future, they have the flexibility and the opportunities that we have now. The third thing, in my opinion, is the issue of livability in San Benito County. I think that the most controversial aspect of any a general plan is growth, because when you talk about growth, when you talk about future residents, when you talk about change, some people don't handle change very well, because we certainly have expectations, we certainly have visions for how we want San Benito County to look, but to get to that point is a challenge. And so I think that any type of future residents that we bring into San Benito County, that we certainly have to take into consideration the impacts it's going to have for our existing residents. And so I would hope that any type of future growth, especially residential growth, is going to improve the quality of life for existing residents. And finally, I think the final aspect that is extremely important to this general plan is mobility. And as I said, we have holes in San Benito County when it comes to our infrastructure, and particularly our roads.
Right.
In particular, our roads. We have an ingress and egress problem in San Benito County. Highway 25 is heavily congested from day to day. Highway 156 is a very dangerous road. There's always, we have the fatalities on 156, and luckily I believe Caltrans has a plan that will be phased in hopefully soon. But until we address our infrastructure needs, because can we begin to have the discussion of growth, in my opinion, because in order to have growth, we have to be able, our infrastructure has to be able to accommodate such growth.
Right.
And I think that is extremely important within this general plan.
Right. We were talking earlier about development in a rural area, and I worked on the city's general plan update, and there was a lot of talk about leapfrog development and sprawl and those kind of conditions.
Sure.
When land was cheap and gas was cheap, and what we were left with is a large carbon footprint because we had to rely on roads and cities to get to city services. And until we come up with what's called decentralization, edge cities, cities that have their own economic development, jobs, and they're self-contained. We don't have that. We're still kind of a ways away from that. So I guess am I correct to say that when you're talking about growth, you're still growth around the urban areas of San Juan Bautista and Hollister, but that growth still relies on those downtown areas and in cities for city services.
Absolutely. I think it's been a priority from our Board of Supervisors that we really want to have a general plan that is going to encourage a city-centered growth around Hollister in particular, because certainly, obviously, the services that exist are there. It's a less strain for the county to deliver such the protection when it comes to law enforcement. Obviously, water is a significant issue for San Benito County, especially when you talk about a development in the rural part of the county. So absolutely, I think that is the direction we need to go in. I think that we have a lot of opportunity to have some infill the development within the city of Hollister, or you have the pockets of the county within the city of Hollister, which really makes, it doesn't make much sense. So.
Well, I was just kind of wondering, how do you balance, like it seems to me you need the money to, initiate any of these projects and stuff, but how do you develop that economy while still trying to put these ideas in place? I mean, you need the money first before you do it.
Right, right, and that's a challenge we face. I think that's a challenge that a lot of local governments face, and that's why I think the first point I made was prosperity. That in the future economic development needs to be incorporated within the county's planning process. And I think a way we're accomplishing this in the general plan is we are really hoping to encourage investment within the tourism industry, within the wine industry in San Benito County. We've created a wine overlay within the general plan, And I believe that San Benito County is a great county. It's we are very lucky to have, the beauty and the resources that we have in San Benito, the natural resources. And I think that in the future years, you're going to see a lot of investment in San Benito County, especially in wine and tourism. We have a national park in San Benito County. And I think that once we find a way to capture those tourism dollars, that it's really going to help our county, our community, and we'll be able to invest in other areas of need.
So it's kind of a phased in type
Absolutely, it's absolutely it's a phased in.
And there's dependency on the city for tourism too, to have the amenities and like hotels and whatever for tourists to come to and be able to stay there, and then able to go ahead and tour these, our open space areas. And the county encompasses 83% of the land. And when we talk about prosperity, I guess, a lot of it is because agriculture is the #1 industry for San Benito County.
No question.
Generally speaking. So I guess, I would say that sustainability of agriculture would be an industry in itself, and for job creation.
And that's becoming a tourist draw as well. People want to see where their food's growing and come out and
to
visit
protect those lands, because that's what we're known for. Not only the beautiful sceneries, but the wonderful soils and that we're fertile soils to have such great crops.
Right.
But of course, then the water, water's becoming more and more of a concern.
Well, as we said on the show before, everything's linked together somehow, so we have to look at the whole picture.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Right.
So, I guess then, once my understanding is where we are in the process now is that, you have a draft, and it's going to be environmental impact report.
Right.
I don't know if that's out for review yet, but I know it's a ways to go, because once that environmental impact report is approved, and then the zoning code has to correlate with the general plan, and it's going to be still a ways to go. But
Right.
But it's very important, and I'm proud to say is that that the general plan, it seems to starting to help. It takes a while for it to kick into gear to help the city, but it is helping the city. Right. It is bringing open a lot of different possibilities there.
I wanted to ask you, how was the public involved in this process?
And I'm glad you asked that, because I was going to ask if I could add that there's going to be in the coming months opportunities for local residents to get involved. It's very important that they contact their supervisors, that they attend our meetings. There's going to be a lot of opportunity. I'm sure we'll have special evening sessions there in the county. It's very important for people to get involved and provide our board with the input on how they want. We need to know from them what's important and what they want San Benito County to look like 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. It's extremely important. We want to fast track this, because this has been an ongoing issue, and we've set a goal of December 2014. So we hope to make that goal.
Have you used any of the work, the foundation, the Vision San Benito County?
Absolutely. To this point, we have, we've had a number of workshops, and I know that we have, gotten a lot of that input and have used a lot of those ideas within our general plan for sure.
Yeah, because I went to a couple of those workshops. I was impressed with just some of the ideas that our residents came up with. That didn't have any planning background. It was fabulous.
Well, I want to say, Robert, I really appreciate you coming on the show. It's wonderful to have, young guys like you with the passion for, for our beautiful San Benito County, and the passion for the environment.
Hey, well,
you're doing a great job, and I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks so much. And like I said, I'm a big fan of the show, and it was, I really appreciate the opportunity to come on.
Okay.
So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right.
Get you back on, too, in the future. You're back watching Going Green, and on the show we have with us Andy Hsia-Coron and Kate Woods. Now, Andy's a coordinator for San Benito Rising, and Kate, as you all know, is a repeat guest. She's author of Quicksilver Chronicles, which is available at lulu.com, and she's also an artist and many other things. And hey, we're just really happy to have you guys on the show, and we want to talk about San Benito Rising. You guys have been in the news for a while, so I understand that San Benito Rising is a grassroots group, working to stop fracking. Is that pretty
Yeah.
much your objective?
Yeah, fracking and other what we call extreme oil extraction techniques. So that would include things like acidization, cyclic steam injection, any ways where you do something special to the ground below, change it to get that oil and that gas out of the ground.
Okay. And maybe you can give us a little background. How long has San Benito Rising been in existence, and
That's a,
how's it composed
seems like a long
demographics?
time, but I think it's only since this fall that we got together for our first meeting. We met for the first time in San Juan Bautista Library, showed people excerpts from Josh Fox's film Gasland, and it took off from there. We had a concern that the county was moving forward to creating regulations in dealing with fracking in the Monterey Shale. We've got a lot of the Monterey Shale underneath our county. And the fear was that those regulations really weren't going to protect the people of the county.
Right. And with fracking, there really hasn't been a lot of regulation that we know about that has, it's still kind of, I think, is experimental in a way, wouldn't you say? We don't really know what the impacts are with this technique, and still relatively unknown. Am I correct?
Well, apparently, DOGGR, the agency that regulates it for the state, weren't even aware of which wells were being fracked or not fracked. There was little being monitored in the process, and so most of the horror stories were coming from other states.
I see. Wow. And so, I know you have an initiative that is on the books, and for lack of a better word for it, we'll call it Protect Water and Health Initiative. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Do you want to take a shot?
Oh, well, we're about to launch it.
Okay.
We're going to be down at the elections office tomorrow. I know this show will go on later, but we're going to gather the signatures to make it official, and I know we're not going to have any trouble getting that. So it should be on the November ballot for the county, which is really going to help, because I know that the current gas and oil ordinance that the supervisors put in place has too many loopholes. It's actually, as I see it, it's rolling out the red carpet to these guys, and it gives us bargain basement price to put any extreme type of oil or gas extraction. It's like it breaks down to something like $850 a well, when it should be, I think, $850,000.
Well,
Also, from when I read it, it's more of a self-policing type of thing. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
well, the counties are overstretched in terms of resources, and it would be very difficult to actually find out whether something was going wrong at any of those wells. I had the pleasure of getting to talk briefly to Josh Fox, the director of Gasland, and asked him about regulations, because I was concerned about the process moving forward. And I said, well, what do you think about regulating fracking? And he said it just gives permission to frack, and there's no such thing as safe fracking. There's some activities that you just can't do. And listening to Robert Rivas earlier in the show, when he talked about a vision for this county, some of these activities are just not compatible with a vision of a county that's going to rely on its agriculture, thinking about tourism associated with its wineries and its natural beauty. Not too many people want to come to a fracked county.
Well, we've focused on this show to the long vision. We've always tried to take the long vision, because we've learned in the past that technology in past years we thought was safe. Years later, we found out it was not. So we always try to look at the long vision. And as you know, water is my mission. And I know that this industry uses copious amounts of water. And I'm not taking a stance on fracking or not. It's just the fact that there's large amounts of water being used. And in a county that depends on agriculture and ranching, we have to decide as citizens, where do we want that water to go? What is the most beneficial use for that water? So is it for fracking? To me, it's a short-term gain to get some jobs and revenue. Whereas, it's a heritage in our county for ag and ranch. So there's so many competing interests for water right now, regardless of the drought, the issues in the Delta, the climate change, the growing population. So water is going to become even more fierce competition over it. So do we want to direct it this way? So that's, you know, kind of where my stance is do we as a county, is that the direction we want to go? And I'm glad that you guys are opening up the debate. So I appreciate that.
Well, there's more than one issue. There's an issue of supply, which is short all over the state, especially in a drought year. We just experienced the driest year in California's history. But not only does fracking use hundreds of thousands of gallons of water to frack a well, it has the potential of contaminating the aquifers around it so that they're not usable by agriculture, by the people. So it puts a really limited resource at risk.
Well, no, I mean, you're right down there by the condor habitat, so, you know, you have to look at that as well. So, you know.
Condors love water. They love to splash in water, and it's just the wrong thing to do. Up to 600 different chemicals go into a frack job, and it's almost like they pulled every chemical off the shelf and mixed it just to see what would happen. And it's a witch's brew. And water, whether it's underground or on the surface, it doesn't know boundaries. It doesn't know fence lines. So you frack your property, you're poisoning the water on your neighbor and their neighbor's property. And it's just the wrong thing to do in a county that depends on agriculture and ranching for its main economy.
Well, we're hoping that, you know, some people say this is not in my backyard, a NIMBY kind of thing. But my feeling about NIMBY is it's not in my backyard or anybody else's. That this is the kind of activity that people around the country are beginning to ask themselves, is this a bridge to any kind of future, or is it endangering a resource that's far more valuable, which is the water? When we have alternatives, we have ways of getting our energy that don't imperil our water sources. And if fracking's not good enough for New York State, where they've put a moratorium on it, it's not good enough for Californians either.
Well, when we talk about groundwater, though, it goes beyond just somebody in your backyard, NIMBYism. I know that it was on a debate on the Board of Supervisors. We're talking about, you know, putting up bonds. How much bond should they put up for their oil rigs? And the thing is that what I find really hard to put a price tag on is if something goes wrong. You know, how much is it going to cost to clean something up?
Sure.
Clean up a mess.
We just need to look at New India. You know?
Well,
And I think the bond right now in that oil and gas ordinance, I believe it's like $10,000. Woo! I mean, that's not gonna pay for 1 day of cleanup. You know, it's just.
Well, look, if we, instead of doing bonds, if we actually asked them to buy insurance policies that guaranteed for all the, you know, to pay off the damage to all the folks who might be damaged by a polluted aquifer, they'd never be able to frack a single well. It would cost too much to frack it. That way you'd internalize the cost of that.
Well, I think David said at the beginning of the segment that, you know, the science just isn't there, too. We don't know the long-term effects.
we just don't know.
And I don't understand the rush to develop this right now, because the way I look at it, it's a supply and demand thing. That it's just going to be more demand and less supply, so that's going to let that oil be more valuable in the future after we know what the science is. So why rush to do it now?
Right on.
You know?
You know, we look at the vision for the future where we don't have to rely on fossil fuels for energy.
Yeah.
But, you know, we have other issues that go beyond our region, like the XL pipeline that's going from Canada to the Gulf. And, you know, in reality, is just going to, we're not really getting any benefit from that. My understanding is just going to sell it to the Chinese.
Yeah,
Right.
That's right.
And what could go, I mean, there's already been a problem with cleanups with that type of operation, and it costs a lot of money. I know they had a problem with Lake Ponderosa, and
I know
cost $1
they've
billion.
had all types of issues with that.
Well, once that
Panorama.
stuff spills, it settles to the bottom of waterways, and they can't get it out.
And it's going through the Ogallala Aquifer, which supplies water to 2/3 of this nation's ranchers and agriculturalists. I mean, I think it's just insanity.
How do people, if they want to get involved with your organization, do you have a website address?
They can just go to their search engine and punch in San Benito Rising. They can find our Facebook. They can find our website.
Yeah.
And we certainly are looking for their involvement and support of this initiative. We've got other things that we're working on. We've been meeting with San Juan Bautista because we believe you can't just say no to something. You have to say yes about what kind of future you want. And we've made several presentations to the council about the possibility of a greener future, so that the city right now is city of history, and it could be city of history and city of the future.
Right. So that, you know, I can sense your passion for San Benito County. Is some of your constituents live outside of San Benito County, or is it pretty much?
Yeah, we are getting support from beyond San Benito County because people realize that this is a regional issue, that the aquifers in our county flow into the surrounding counties, that the watersheds that we have in our county flow out through the other counties into the ocean. So people realize that it's, you know, all things are connected.
It's
Yeah,
one of the
again,
largest
yeah.
watersheds in the state.
There's an
You know,
interconnectivity that goes way beyond NIMBYism, that's for sure. Hey, well, I want to really thank you guys for coming on the show today and letting the viewers know about San Benito Rising and your mission, and we wish you best of luck.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
You're very
Thank
welcome.
you, guys.
Great to be back.
All right.
Hi, you're back watching Going Green. We're having such a good time with Andy and Kate here. We wanted to invite them on our closing statements here, and I think, you know, with the commonality of the show is that, you know, we want to see a greener environment, and we want to keep it green, sustainable, and healthful for us all. So,
Yeah, and I just want to say too, you know, our county inhibits us in a lot of ways because we are small and we don't have a lot of money. But at the same time, for us to get our voice out there, it can work to our advantage. And so I encourage people to get out and go to some of these public meetings and, you know, put your voice into the general plan. Get out there and put your way in on this fracking issue, and just, you know, get out there and tell them what you feel. And it's really an opportunity, since we do live in a small place, to really make a difference.
we may live in a small place, but like where Robert Rivas grew up in Paicenas, some of the most beautiful scenery I've ever seen is in Paicenas. And I think that drives a lot of our passion to, you know, keep our county sustainable. So again, you know, we're having a green party here, and and we want to thank you for watching Going Green, and we'll see you next time.
Goodbye, everyone.